Ever since Keanu Reeves downloaded Kung Fu, sci-fi fans have been hoping that someone with gravity-defying sunglasses would come along and offer up different color pills so that they can control the simulation. Unfortunately, the closest we've gotten is the electric car guy thinking we're in a simulation, but even he can't keep the windows from breaking on his pickup trucks. While we sort out how real the real world is, there's a new theory that the Matrix isn't the only computer simulation cinematic universe. Whoa! Could the Marvel Cinematic Universe also be a simulation run by a star-powered computer? Well, let's take a look. Now everybody swallow your red pill, that's good. Now, in order to get to the core of this theory, we have to go a few theories deep. Theoryception, if you will. Ready? Let's spin the top and get to it. First things first, what kind of mad computer could simulate an entire universe full of people and different universes and everything that goes with it? That would be the Matrioshka Brain. Without going into the finer details, it works like this. A giant computer is built in a Dyson sphere that's a big old ball wrapped around a star. The computer uses the power from that star to power itself. That use gives off heat, so another sphere is built around it to capture that heat and turn it into energy to power its computer, which gives off heat, so yet another sphere is built on and on until there's not enough heat to capture or the surface is just too large. That's why it's called a Matryoshka Brain. Matryoshka is the name of those dolls that have smaller dolls in them. While you could use all that computing power to dominate Fortnite, you could also simulate the Marvel Universe. The argument has been made that the most recent Secret Wars represents just that. See, the entire multiverse is run as an experiment or project by its users, which in the Secret Wars would be the scariest beings possible, while still rocking an 80s man perm, the Beyonders. Looking good. The Beyonders sort of work like an admin account in the multiverse. And they chose Michael Landon, if he had been cast in Miami Vice, for their avatar, for some reason. Throughout the universe, there have been entities that serve to regulate the program, so to speak, such as the living tribunal that solves conflicts of programming to prevent locking up, or Galactus who deletes old code. When the Beyonders decide to shut down the whole thing, they find out that Dr. Doom figured them out years ahead of time and stored enough of the codes of the universes to create the Battle World, a sort of super smash-up of all the various realities that have made up Marvel up to that point. Then he recruits the AIs to defend the simulation against the people trying to pull the plug. It's that set of code that Franklin Richards uses to rebuild the universe after the Beyonders tried to shut the whole thing down, sort of like doing a factory reset on your devices to get rid of that app you probably shouldn't have downloaded. But wait, you say, that's all fine and good. But didn't you mention the Marvel Cinematic Universe? There was an Infinity War and a Civil War, but there hasn't been a Secret War yet, except the one the Inhumans fought with themselves. But that's a secret mostly because no one liked it. Were we supposed to root for the elite rulers that sent people to live in mines if their powers weren't cool enough? Anyway, how does this relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's check in with Wong during Infinity War. In fact, the masters of the mystical arts are going to be key to this entire thing. When Heimdall sends Bruce to Earth to warn the Avengers of the coming of Thanos, there's still a lot of exposition to dump, and Wong and Strange are there with cool light show to catch us up. As Wong tells us, after the Big Bang, 6 stones were also created that each controlled some aspect of the universe. Those stones, of course, are the space, mind, reality, power, soul, and time stones. Come on, you've seen the movies. If someone just told you that there were tiny gems that were able to control the fundamental rules of the universe, you might have some follow-up questions. But if they did at while a ridge-chinned grimace was tearing up the universe, and a guy with a self-aware cloak was wearing one of these stones around his neck, yeah, you'd probably be more accepting. But how is a stone supposed to control the universe, and why would such a thing exist? Even in a Magic Hammer universe, there'd have to be a why such a thing would exist. Well, what if they were the control nodes of the universe? Whoever it is who created this simulation set these 6 stones about to set the parameters of the universe. So the space stone is what sets the parameters of what space is. Not just the place that's not Earth, but space as the distance between everything, not space. The reality stone sets the parameters for what is and isn't real. The time stone is literally the clock that runs the program. That's why if you reset the clock specifically, you can uneat an apple or unblow up the Chinese sanctum or undestroy the Mind Stone. If the Mind Stone sets the parameters for thought and self-awareness, then the fact that individually it can control or erase thoughts makes sense. Early creations, things like the Celestials, they were able to modify the universe in the way you'd let an AI test modify its surroundings to see how it develops. Just like when scientists created AIs and unleashed them on the internet, they eventually either watched cat videos or became trolls. Basically, having the AI being able to muck about with the control nodes became less ideal. So as the AIs replicate and develop across the simulation, they're just not able to handle the stones. So ancient and powerful beings like Thanos can wield the Infinity Stones. The Sorcerers of the Sanctum are the ones who have figured out the source code, so to speak. As the Ancient One describes their power, they tap into the multiverse and use the power from those realms. So for instance, a certain sorcerer could siphon off from the dark dimension and live on for a really long time. So long in fact that they just call her the Ancient One. What they would in essence be doing then is borrowing patches from other universes. Maybe run on one of the outer Dyson spheres or inner Dyson spheres if it's all one giant Matrioshka brain and working it into our world. Like if someone were able to patch a Warthog from Halo into Fortnite, or the gun from Portal into Bioshock. Interestingly, this would be both technology and magic. The gun really is being summoned, but then obeys a certain set of rules like any other piece of technology. So it walks that line between science and magic that the MCU has been trying to do. This also explains why the quantum realm works the way it does. Going down past the atoms, Scott and company are essentially working their way to the machine code itself. That's why it can be used both as a gateway to other dimensions, but also other timelines. This would also be a reason why time travel works the way it does in the main MCU. We say main MCU because while there are connecting elements in the TV show Runaways, their final season revolved around time travel that operated on more of a Back to the Future style logic. Plus, whatever happened during Season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll come back to that though. The Ancient One explains to Banner Hulk that taking the Time Stone will create a new reality in which the Time Stone won't be available for Doctor Strange to bargain with Dormammu. And since that was one of the better moments in the MCU, that'd just be a shame. So what happens in these instances is the computer just copies the universe and stores it as a separate file, like that third draft of the email you were going to send to Jessica. Oh, Jessica. Which means now that Loki is broken free of his own reality, the program is that much more complex. What could make problems even worse is one heartbroken woman fueled by the power of one of the Infinity Stones. Someone who's starting to realize the scope of her power. And if she's going to have powers with that kind of scope, she might be so inclined to bring Vision back, which we know she will be doing in some capacity during WandaVision, creating a warping set of realities, including one where she wears her comic book costume. Wanda might be writing and rewriting the code to the point where it starts to break down, which will lead Doctor Strange to step in and see if he can patch all the error codes that she just made. We already know that Wanda will feature in the coming Doctor Strange sequel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, likely from the damage she does during WandaVision, and the increase of her powers along the lines of House of M storyline, perhaps even being a way to bring mutants into the MCU. Yes, please. But that's not the end of it. Where the simulation really hits the wall would be the same way it did to create the theory in the first place: Secret Wars. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is facing the issues that a regular comic book timeline has: time and bloat. Characters can't age the way they'd age normally, or we'd be reading about Bruce Wayne IV fighting crime in Gotham and Spider-Man would be a boomer. After a while, continuities become strained and hard to reconcile. While Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. acknowledge the arrivals of Thanos' Black Order, it has certainly done its own thing. Likewise, the nebulous gray area that the now dormant Netflix shows exist in. Which bring us back to the Runaways, which name drops Wakanda and uses the Dark Dimension, but has a different rule set and certainly didn't have half the cast blink out of existence for 5 years. Not to mention the properties that have been returned to Marvel since the MCU began, like Mutants and the Fantastic Four. If Wanda attempts to bring over another reality's Vision, tear apart the framework of the multiverse along with Loki bouncing around his own new reality, the code keeps copying itself and running on a parallel program. Once this happens though, a comic book company has something of a crisis. On infinite Earths, perhaps, Or the programmers come in to shut it down because it's outgrown itself. But the program has become aware of that and taken measures to stop it by saving the codes and reconstructing them into the battle worlds. There are more than a few rumors at this point that the ultimate end of the next saga is going to be Secret Wars, and the Beyonders might just be like the users in Tron trying to shut down the program. Is this the most likely? Well, in the 80s there was a famous ending to long-running nighttime soap. It was called Saint Elsewhere, and the ending revealed that the entire series was in the mind of a very sick kid in the hospital. Since a lot of shows crossed over at that time, it meant that by association, almost half a decade of TV dramas were in the imagination of one sick boy at a hospital. It is a memorable ending, but not a popular one. But it is an interesting idea to ponder. And that's how the MCU just might be a computer simulation. If we're a simulation, that would mean that simulations are watching a simulation of a simulation for entertainment. Oh, and cat videos. Lots of cat videos. What do you think? Is this the most likely explanation of how the MCU works? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the simulation will bring on the latest videos straight to your inbox. Thanks for watching.